crafty friends, this is the Papered Chef here. In today's Brother ScanNCut tips and tricks tutorial, you are going to learn how to create a stamping mask out of Mylar. We'll be using the SDX125 machine, but you can follow along with whichever ScanNCut model you have. I will include directions on how to make a Mylar stencil or stamping mask using a CM model of machine. Those settings will be in the description of this video. I'm using Butterfly Brilliance. It's a new stamp set available right now. Just for demonstrators, I love being able to pre-order products. It's one of the many benefits of being a Stampin' Up demonstrator. But this stamp set is going to be available to my customers in March, so stay tuned and I'll include that in my newsletter. There'll be a link to how to subscribe to my newsletter in the description. You'll be notified when this is available to you. Right now, I would like to start by explaining how I do my videos so that you're not confused. I never show my projects. I try not to show my projects until the end of the video, but in this case, I need to just show you the overall big picture so that you understand what a stamping mask is. And as we embark and keep on kind of peeling away the layers of the onion, you're going to understand why we're doing what we're doing. So first of all, this stamp is amazing because it's one giant cling stamp. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp it. I'm going to show you how to stamp it. I'm using my Stamparatus. We do make stamping blocks big enough to stamp a stamp like this, but I'm going to use my Stamparatus. I'm going to stamp that onto a piece of basic white cardstock. I've already cut these into 6x6. That's just the back of my paper. Okay, we're going to stamp that. We're going to stamp it using Memento black ink because I'm going to be sponge coloring in the actual color. Okay, so then I'm going to color it in using what's called a stamping mask. There is no way to do this without a stamping mask, or no way to do this efficiently. This stamping mask makes it so easy for you to color this in a snap. I'm going to show you a couple techniques for coloring this. Okay, so we're going to start out with a stamp. We're going to stamp it in black. We're going to color it using a stamping mask. You could make a stamping mask just by cutting out these stamped images using the Whisper White cardstock. Okay, let me start with that. However, if you do that, it's not going to be reusable and it's not going to be efficient. I'm all about efficiency on this channel. So I want to show you that I like to use Mylar. It's plastic, and I'll have a link to this exact one I use, and you can get the exact one I use. I've gone through packs and packs of this stuff. I use it all the time. Okay, so we're going to be using a Mylar stencil. Here's what your result is going to be. After we cut this out, it has some ink on it because I've been using it. I've been using it for many hours. See, we're going to use it. We're going to lay it over the top of this, and we're going to be able to instantly color in our stamped images. Okay, so that's the concept, and I wanted to explain this concept so you know what a stamping mask is. Now, a mask by definition is something that covers up a part of something and reveals another part. Okay, so really, technically, this is really a stamping mask. Okay, this is covering. Well, this is a stamping mask in that it's covering the background but revealing the stamped images. But this is also a stamping mask. You're going to save your negatives. Don't throw these away. These are very important to use. These help you because you're going to put those on top of your stamped image and be able to color the reverse. Okay, so there's lots of useful tips and tricks in this tutorial. And furthermore, I'm going to explain some things like when I would use the dies. Now, even though we could technically cut out stamped images with the ScanNCut as well. And I'm going to say when and why I would use the dies. And where do you see this kind of die that I have to go with this? And when I say die, I mean metal die. Okay, now this machine, the Brother ScanNCut, is an electronic die cutting machine. That's what we call it, an electronic cutting machine. But there are many ways to cut things. You can cut with the blade of your ScanNCut, but you can also cut out things using metal dies. And I think they're more efficient in certain cases, and I'm going to explain why. So this tutorial is packed with lots of tips and tricks. And it's a very long intro because I don't want you to get lost in what this tutorial is all about. Okay, you want to watch this if you like stamping and you like creating and you like working with mixed media and coloring and things. That's when you would want to watch this. It does not matter if you have the stamp set. Okay, if you're not a demonstrator yet, or you don't have the stamp set and you're a customer, you're going to get it in March, still watch this tutorial because you can follow along with whichever stamped image you have. I've done similar tutorials on making stamping mask with the deer, which we used in one of the paper pumpkin kits. I've done this with the moose. There's a moose stamp. I've done so many tutorials on creating stamping masks on my channel. So there's plenty of applications of this. So again, it does not matter which stamp set you have. It does not matter if you have a stamparatus. Okay, don't get bogged down. And I get asked all the time, but I don't have exactly what you're using. It doesn't matter. Just use whatever you have and follow along. You have a ScanNCut, or you wouldn't be here watching this video, or you plan on getting one. So that's all that really matters, is that you have a ScanNCut. The stamp set, it doesn't matter, because I'm teaching you a skill that you can apply to any stamp, any stamping set that you have, any stamp set. So the stamparatus is really fun because it has this like plate that you can use, and you can use the reverse of it, and it has hinges, and you can move your stamps around. I'm just setting it right into its regular spot, and I've already mounted this cling stamp set. It is one big stamp, which is really fun. I love that about it. I'm using my magnets to hold the piece of paper in place. The stamparatus, the stamping platform, it comes with magnets like this. I use a little bit of washi tape on the magnets so that they don't kind of snap together. I've already broken some of my magnets, and I do have more somewhere because I bought the extra magnets, but for now I'm just using these extra round ones I have that don't actually come with it. To ink up your stamp, I'm using Memento black ink. Why? Because it's the go-to ink, and it's really good for when you're going to sponge color, or if you want to color with your stamping blends, it's also very good for that. You have to use a lot of ink on the big stamp like this, and you may even have to stamp it twice, to get the full image to come out. And you might want to re-ink your stamp once in a while. Let's see. Looks like let me just rub on that to make sure. See, sometimes I just do that to make sure I have good coverage. I rub and then I pat it down. So you might not be able to see this, but I'm looking for like the shiny, sort of wet stamp look, and then I know that I have it good coverage on my ink. Now I'm going to lower this down, and I'm going to push it onto my basic white cardstock. I'm using the regular basic white cardstock, not the thick one. I'm just using the regular one that comes 8.5 by 11, 40 per pack, or it comes 12 by 12 sheets. You can get, I think it's 24 per pack. So you can get this basic white, regular weight. Okay, I think that's already good, so I don't need to stamp it again. Okay, you can get this regular weight in our Stampin' Up store. We also make thick whisper white, or thick basic white, I should say, cardstock. But we don't need to use that thick one, because that's just if you're actually making cards. So the reason I put that little piece of tape there is to keep it from slipping. Because if you do need to ink it up and stamp again, then it doesn't slip. The other thing you can do is I do put a little piece of adhesive there. I was doing that with my heart recently, and that also keeps the paper from slipping. And when I say a little bit of adhesive, I just kind of put a little drop of this Stampin' Seal on there. Helps keep the paper from slipping. Now while we're here, okay, I'm going to do something else while we're here, while I have the stamparatus at. Then I can change the angle of my camera. I'm going to make a couple of card bases that we're going to be using later, or I'm not going to be using them all right now, but I always like to have an extra one just in case. So what I want to do is, let me just lower this. Don't lower it all the way. You want to sort of see, I want this butterfly to fully fit, and this one to fully fit, and then this little one just sticks out a little bit, so that's okay. Let's move the paper down a little bit. It doesn't have to fully fit the top one. I want this one to fully fit because that one's pretty awesome. So I'm going to move this paper down a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm just stamping a couple. Yeah, see, that one's going to fully fit. This one's going to mostly fit. Okay, good. That's what I want. So this is a card. When I say card base, it's really like a card layer, not a card base. It's a card layer. And let's put this little piece of tape right down there. So I'm gonna ink this up, and I'm gonna stamp that. Now we're going to need that later. We're going to be coloring that. And part of it, because what I do is I show you my finished projects so you can get to see the practical application of why we're doing all this work. Why are we doing the work up front? Because it saves us so much time later. Ah, that's wonderful. I love it, love it, love it. Now I'm going to put another piece there for good measure, only because that's the way I roll. I never just make one of anything. Okay, we're going to put another piece in there. The stamparatus is great when you're mass producing cards, making a lot of the same card. Okay, ink it up again. Here, let's put the magnet right on the card. Stop. Oh, better not, because the stamp will get in the way. Okay, push down with your palm. So you're like, well, what are these stamping blocks for? We're going to be using those too. Even though I have a Stamparatus, I still use my stamping blocks. Okay, I'm very happy with these. So we'll be using these later. And we're going to be turning this and these into something like this, right? Using our mask after we make our reusable Mylar mask, okay? So and now we can just close that. I'll clean it later. To clean it, I just take this off and literally just wash it in the sink. That's it. I'm not unmounting this yet. There's no reason to unmount this stamp because I'm going to be using it again and again. I just got this, and so when I get something new, as you may know if you've subscribed to my channel, I kind of go crazy with everything new that I get. I use it up a lot. So let's put these off to the side. We only need one of these. We're not going to scan one that's already colored because technically it's not colored exactly where the lines are. You know, it slips a little bit. We want to scan and cut this one, or not actually cut this. We want to scan and make the mask out of this one, not this one, because this one might have a little bit of color outside the lines. But let's talk about that later. I'm going to move this off to the side. And Butterfly Brilliance, put that over there. Now let's talk about this. We're just going to put this on, I'm just going to put this on the middle of my mat, maybe about 1 inch down. So if I want to, I'm going to take this whole piece of Mylar and I'm going to make a mask. You never want to put this up in the edge when you're making your stamping mask, because if you do, you're going to have, it's going to be like this, and it's, when you color, you're going to be too close to the edge of the paper. So always when you're making a mask, put it somewhere, like you at least do something like this, at least 1 inch. Let's just say something like this, just for good measure, 1 inch from the side. Okay, never put a mask too close to the edge, because you want, if you're going to cut something out in Mylar, sometimes I even use Mylar and cut an extra rectangle around it. But if you want to be coloring, when you get ink on something, right, you don't want to get ink all around the edge of that paper. And we don't need the Mylar yet, but I was just showing you where you put this piece of paper to scan in. Yeah, I could have put it actually over on the right side 1 inch from the edge. It's just as long as you're not putting it too close to the edge. So what I'm doing now, just so you know, is I'm going to be loading. I'm loading my ScanNCut. I'm just turning it on and loading, and then I'll show you the settings as soon as I change the camera angle. So what I need to do is just load the mat, and I'll show you how I did that, because I don't like you to miss any steps. One thing that's important is I do have an overhead light, and I'm actually video recording right now with this overhead light. It's called, it's an OT light. It's kind of pretty cool light. My mom uses them for sewing. We all use them for reading. And so when I'm going to scan in something, I do have to turn off this light, because it's okay to have an overhead light like on your ceiling light, but it's not okay to have an overhead video light like that. It does affect your scanning, and it will make your scanning inaccurate. And I've learned that the hard way. So how did I load the mat, and where are we at? So I loaded the mat using this button here. Okay, I loaded the mat. So now we're at the screen. We're at the home screen. Doesn't matter what model of your machine you have, because I teach you skills that you can apply to any machine. You're going to see pattern and scan. You want to select scan. Well, you're going to directly cut out this stamped image. Believe it or not, even though we're cutting it on Mylar, we're still directly cutting it out. So we're going to click on direct cut. This is asking where we want to save the data, and this is just temporary storage, so save it to your machine. You could also save it to Canvas Workspace, because I'm wirelessly enabled. Just save the temporary data to your machine. Because I'm hanging down a little bit over the 6 inch mark, I'm going to go ahead and do 12 by 12 scanning area, and I'm going to use black and white recognition mode, not color. I'm using black and white. We're going to say start. Even if I had colored these in, I would still use black and white recognition mode, because there's a lot of good contrast between the foreground and the background. So right now the scanner is scanning in and recognizing the butterflies. It's very important that you understand that when you're making a stamping mask, you're not going to be putting an outline distance around the butterflies like you normally would when I teach you about cutting stamped images. The dies that I use later, we're going to be putting a little bit of a white border around something. So what do I mean by that? This is just my paper, which I'll show you later. When I mean outline distance, when I cut stamped images or pattern paper, I usually put an outline distance around something. But when you're making a stamping mask, you don't want an outline distance around anything. Click OK. When it got done scanning in, you're going to click OK. Now, what we need to do now is remove these unwanted bits. Okay. We first of all zoom in here or select the area we want. That's one way to get rid of all the dirt all over the mat, the unwanted bits. The other way to get rid of the unwanted lines, these would all cut out, all these little marks would cut out because they were scanned in. The other way is to say ignore object size. Okay, I can ignore, as I ignore them, they disappear off the mat. We're safe to say ignoring 1/2 inch is fine because none of the butterflies, if you ignore objects too big, you're going to ignore the very thing you're trying to scan. So it's okay to just ignore things that are 1/2 inch because it won't make my butterflies disappear. Okay, that's enough. We can say okay. We have everything selected. We have all the 6 butterflies selected. We've ignored the objects and now we have nothing left to delete. We don't want an outline distance. That's where you would want one. If you do want one, it's there. We click on edit if we have any extra stray bits, and we can edit them out and trash them. Okay, let's click OK, and we want to cut this. But we want to cut this in Mylar, not on paper. If I were to just wanted to cut this on paper, I would simply just, like right now, if I wanted to just cut out these images, I'm going to go ahead and rip this off. I would literally just cut these. That's all I would do. I would just say cut because the Autoblade, this is an Autoblade. Let me show you that. Okay, this is an Autoblade, and it can determine what blade depth to use when cutting paper, and it's fine. Okay, so I would just simply say cut. So you're thinking, well, why don't you just use the Autoblade when you're cutting Mylar? Well, because there's a couple reasons. So let's go ahead and replace this with Mylar. Remember, when you're going to replace the paper, I ripped this off of this spot. You want it whenever you put your Mylar down or your other material you're going to make a mask out of, you want to put it in the area where you just pulled the stamped image from, because this is the part of the mat it's going to be cutting out on. Sometimes my mat buckles a little. See that? See my mat's buckling? In that case, I want to show you what I do. I open up the lever and just flatten out my mat. And I just kind of flatten out my mat and close that lever again. Now my mat is flat. If you don't do that, you're going to get some problems when you try to cut Mylar. It's going to buckle. Okay, other things you can do right now to ensure your Mylar does not slip is I can take this. I'm ready to cut in Mylar, and I can kind of tape up, the edges of this mat so that my Mylar doesn't slip. It's very important that you don't let your Mylar slip. Now, why don't I just use the Autoblade technology and let it cut Mylar? Okay, so there's a couple reasons, and this is after a lot of experience and trial and error cutting Mylar or cutting stencil material, because this is the same concept as making a stencil, is because when you cut thick material like this, it takes longer for the blade to get around. Furthermore, there's antennae inside these butterflies, right? There's antenna, and so what would happen is if I cut too fast, it could get caught up in that antenna or any little areas where it has to make sharp turns. So the one thing you need to do, definitely, if nothing else, is you're going to click on the settings and you're going to lower the cutting speed. Okay, very important whenever you're cutting any thick material. It doesn't have to be Mylar. Say you're cutting, let's say you're cutting like balsa wood or something, and or corrugated cardboard. Anytime you're cutting thick material, you lower your speed. In my opinion, that's what I always do. I lower my speed. The other thing I like to do is I like to increase my pressure. Now, when I say lower my speed, how do you know it's lower? Because the automatic setting, the one that has the black square around it, is set on 5. So the cut speed is set on 5. So when I say lower the cutting speed, I mean lower it from its default value. So that's what I mean by lowering the cutting speed. I'm lowering it down to 2. So it's lower than the default value. The cut pressure, I'm going to go ahead and increase it up to about a 7. Okay, so you want to increase the pressure because you have thick material, but you want to lower the speed so it goes slower, but it goes at a higher pressure. That's the only settings I'm going to change, and that'll be in the description of this video. Now, as I'm cutting this, I'll talk about the CM model. I hope you can hear me as this machine doesn't make too much noise. I'm going to go ahead and click start, and it says 2 minutes, but it's really not going to be 2 minutes, and I'm going to explain why. The reason I have to let this cut and let the video play is because another important concept is coming up in 1 minute. Now, if you're using a CM model of your machine, you are going to use what's called the deep cut blade. So the CM models don't have Autoblade technology. You're going to use a deep cut blade, and a deep cut blade is something I use for cutting Mylar and thicker materials like treated felt and things like that. You're still going to be changing your depth, your blade depth, and your pressure, but you're using a deep cut blade. It doesn't mean that you can't use a regular blade, but it used to dull my CM blades, and I had to go way up to the top setting, and I was barely able to do it. Now, as you may have noticed, the time changed from 2 minutes to 4 minutes. Now it's back down to 3. The reason that the time doubled is as soon as the Autoblade determined the depth of my Mylar, it doubled the time. It said, oh, well, it was going to take just 2 minutes to cut your 6 butterflies, but we determined that your Mylar is very thick. So it's telling me, Paper Chef, we're going to double your time. No, do not let it do that. Do not let it double your time. I'm going to stop it after it gets through the first cut. So I only want it to take 2 minutes. It's actually, an estimate. It always rounds up to the nearest minute. I do not want to let it take 4 minutes because what it's trying to do is an extra cut. And you don't need to do an extra cut. How do you know it's done the 6 butterflies? When it gets to the halfway mark, it's done my 6 butterflies. Also, I can watch what it's cutting by watching what's on my mat and watch it cutting. So it looks like it's almost done. And as soon as the blade goes back, you'll see. See, watch, it's going to go back up. It's cutting the butterflies, and it's going to go back up to the top. What I need to do is pause that, okay? So you see how my blade moved back up to the top. Go ahead and press the pause button. Let me move that over so you don't miss any steps. And quit cutting. But it wants to do another cut. Doesn't matter. I'm letting you know that you don't need to do another cut. It's only a recipe for disaster when you let it do a second cut. You're going to quit cutting. There's a few reasons. You don't need to do a second cut. Okay? It doesn't matter how thick this Mylar is. You don't need a second cut. It works fine on the first cut. Believe me, I have a whole bag of these. I literally have a gigantic bag of stencils. I use them all the time. You haven't even seen half the stencils I've made. I've just made so many stencils I can't even share them all. I only have time to share some of them. But stencils are a way that I mask color all the time. So watch what happens. I'm going to peel the Mylar off. Look at that. A very clean cut after just one pass through. Okay, so if you were to cut a second time, you run the risk of not cutting in the same exact spot. You're like, but Paper Chef, you tape down the mat. How could you not cut in the same exact spot twice? Because it's a machine, right? And remember I told you it was a little buckled up here from the rollers, and just the vibration of the machine, and just this would just move a little bit. It's definitely not going to cut in the same exact spot twice. It just doesn't do it. So you're running the risk of having, imagine trying to go into this antenna. Let me try to find a darker background here. Let me show you this. This is our awesome stamping mess we just made. But imagine trying to cut inside there twice. You'd be ripping this little pieces to shreds, and these are already very delicate. We didn't actually need to cut the antenna, but the die does cut the antenna, so that's why I wanted to show you that. Okay, so now I'm going to take these all off, and then we're done with the machine part, and then I'm going to show you some coloring techniques. So these are very important to save these because you're going to need these for some other things. Okay, so we have, these are great for the reverse. And I don't mean just because they're cool, they make cool decorations. I'm talking about they're useful in our technique that I'm going to be teaching you in this tutorial. Okay, so we'll put that all over there. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and unload the mat just to make room on my table. And that's that same button I loaded it with. Now, got that out of the way. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's move this back over. Let's talk about why I'm going to use some die cutting, an actual die cutting machine. Now you could, using the method I just taught you, you could cut out your stamped image. If you're going to do that, if you don't have the dies, which I don't know why you wouldn't get a die this awesome. Well, maybe you don't have a die cutting machine. Maybe you don't have a manual die cutting machine. Maybe all you have is a ScanNCut. And then you have this Butterfly Brilliance stamp set. And you're like, well, Paper Chef, I want to cut these out. Well, then just use exactly the technique I just showed you. But instead of using no outline distance, you would use an outline distance of 0.04. And you cut out your stamped image, okay? But in this case, this is a snap. This is one of those times where I would sometimes I have dies, but I still use my machine. In this case, I'm using the dies. I'm using the manual dies. This is our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. We make these in 2 sizes at Stampin' Up. Very heavy duty. There's a platform that comes down. I'm going to show you the sandwich you'd make. The sandwich means how you arrange your dies. So I'm going to put down platform one. I'm going to put down, this is called the metal. It's called the thin die adapter. So I'm going to put down this little number 2. And then I'm going to use cutting plate number 3. There's a top one and a bottom one, only because the bottom one's a little more scratched, but it doesn't really matter. There's 2 plates number 3. I'm going to put down the first plate number 3. I'm going to put down this die. Oh, not that one. We'll use this one for a minute. Then we'll color the other one, and then we'll die cut it again. I'm going to put down this die, the one I've already colored. Then I'll show you the coloring technique. Then we'll do the other die cut. I'm going to do this. I'm going to use the metal die. So this is an amazing metal die. Now, why wouldn't I use a die like this? Because it's going to cut 6 butterflies at once. This is way faster than the ScanNCut. So that's why I would use this die. Also, we have a way to die cut and emboss. Some of our butterflies come out embossed, so that really the die cutting and embossing dies work really well together. I'll be showing you examples of both ones that were die cut and ones that were embossed. The way I line up a die like this is definitely use painter's tape to tape it, but you want to line it up so that the antenna are in there. Because once you get the antenna in there, the rest can sort of fall into place. And I just need 2 little pieces of tape, one sort of at the top and one at the bottom, making sure the antenna are lined up. I mean, it's good enough. It's actually better if I'm standing right over it as opposed to this angle. I get the die cutting a little better. And just as you do with the machine, you know, if you're using your ScanNCut machine, you have to do what's called scanning cutting position adjustment. Well, I kind of have to do this little visual scanning cutting position adjustment. I'm putting the top plate on there and I'm cranking it through. When I'm using a manual machine, I have to do a little bit of position adjustment as well, because you have to tape things down to make sure there's even amount of space on the right side and the left side of your stamped images. Okay, so look how quick that was, and look how fantastic these are. They cut out all at once. In one fell swoop, we have 6 butterflies. This is part of our Butterfly Brilliance collection, and this is going to be available in March to our customers, and it's also going to be in our next catalog. So in other words, this is something we're allowed to pre-order from our next catalog, the 2021-2022 catalog by Stampin Up. Now let's show you how I got to that, and we'll back to the machine in just a minute. So let me put the machine over there. We're going to show you the coloring part technique, and then we'll do another die cutting. Okay, we're not going to be die cutting these 2. We're going to be die cutting one more that I cut from the sheet that we just stamped. So this is the one I scanned in. Now let's show you how to use that stamping mask in one way to use it, and then I'll show you another way to use it in just a couple minutes. So what I do is I lay it down on top of my stamped image, and I'm going to use what's called a sponge brayer. A sponge brayer. If you have a blending brush instead of a brayer, that works, but I find that when you're just coloring so many stamped images at once like this, that a sponge brayer works the best. Okay, I'm going to use Calypso Coral. This is a sponge brayer. We sell these at Stampin' Up. I'm going to use Calypso Coral ink. I'm going to open up the Calypso Coral ink, pop it open like that. We'll go ahead and do the bottom ones in Calypso Coral. I'm just going to go ahead and roll lightly, because if you dig too deep, this plastic touches the stamping pad. I'm just going to roll lightly over my stamping pad, and I'm just going to line up my stencil, and I'm going to just put layers of ink. You can go back and forth if you want to make it real dark like that, but I tend to just sort of go in one direction. That's fine. And then you just keep inking it up. We'll do these 4. We'll do the bottom 4 butterflies in Calypso Coral. Why Calypso Coral? Because the paper I'm going to show you uses Calypso Coral as one of the coordinating colors in the designer series paper I'm going to show you, of which I used to coordinate a lot of my projects, was Calypso Coral. But then I did another project as well. You just got to remember to use coordinating colors. Fantastic. I'm very happy with that. Now, if you get little light spots at the corners, I can show you how to fix them with your little blends markers. Okay, so far we've colored the bottom butterflies, but let's color the top 2. When you need more precision, I'm going to go ahead and close the Calypso Coral ink. When you need a little bit more precision, you use, instead of using a brayer is kind of indiscriminate. You're just kind of going over a big area. You're going to use, this is Bermuda Bay, another coordinating color. If you need to be more precise, like coloring these butterflies, I put the ink, got a little plastic on there. I put the ink on a stamping block first, like that, and then I use what's called a blending brush. This is a blending brush. This has Bermuda Bay on it. I like to use this stamping block so I can control how much ink is on there, and I get like the big blobs of ink off first so that when I color my butterflies, they're not like super dark and blobby. And I kind of go in a circular motion when I'm using the blending brush. Okay, so you saw how quick that is too. Both techniques, the sponge brayer and the blending brushes, are really quick for coloring your butterflies. And that's why I'm going to keep on using my Stamparatus, and I'll probably make, I don't know, 100 of these. Not 100 sheets. I mean, like 100 butterflies total. I don't mean 100 sheets of butterflies. Because what I like to do is when I have a project open, I like to make my little bucket of crafty goodness, cut out lots of butterflies at once. Then I can move on to putting them together in cards. Okay, so Bermuda Bay, Calypso Coral. You saw how I used the sponge brayer. You saw how I used the blending brush. Don't get rid of this ink. Use it again later. Don't get rid of it. But, you know, to get rid of it, you're just going to wash it. Voila. Look at this magic. Look how quickly I colored those. Now, and now I can rinse this off. Reusable stamping mask. It's fantastic. It's just a great way of getting a lot done quickly. But if you do make any mistakes, or you have like little parts that are white, maybe the little stencil or your stamping mask slipped a little bit. So what you could do is, this is Pool Party. It's not Bermuda Bay, because Bermuda Bay to me are like way too dark. Oh no, that's Poppy. Maybe that's why I grabbed the wrong color. No, I do have Bermuda Bay blends, but somewhere, looking around for them, they are too dark for me. They didn't seem to color in like the edges. So what I did for like if the edge of the Bermuda Bay didn't come out right, I would just use a little bit of dark Poppy Parade. Or if I just want to color in the edges, okay? A little bit of dark Poppy Parade. But in this case, the light Calypso Coral worked good for the butterflies if they didn't get all the way like colored with the sponge. Like you saw how fast I colored them, but you can also just do sort of this. It actually looks cool anyway, coloring the edges a little bit. Coloring the middle if you want. I just thought that looked cool. So not to mention it fills in any little white spots, but it also just looks cool. You might want to use the fine tip. But use the light Calypso Coral because it matches better with the sponge brayer than your dark Calypso Coral blend. So these are alcohol markers. They don't run when using let me turn this on. When using this technique, they don't run when using this sponge. Okay, furthermore, you can use what's called a sponge dauber. So I have lots of tips and tricks I teach you here on this channel. And, you know, one thing you could do if you want to be more precise, or even if this is all you have, because I always say use whatever you have, and you want to just be precise, you could just dip into the ink here. Oops, I forgot a spot. And you get your little sponge dauber, and you go, oop, I forgot a spot. Or I want to make the middle darker. I want to make the middle of that butterfly darker so he's glowing. So you could kind of do that little thing with the sponge. See how I did that? So that's just what the sponge dauber is used for more precise. All right, so let's get back and do a couple more die cuts because I want to show you this, and then I want to transition into the paper, and then I can get rid of the machine. So we have all these pieces. Moving those off to the side. I'm going to lay this platform down again. What is that down there? Oh, you know what's stuck down there is my tweezers. There's a magnetic platform and there's a piece of magnet, so my tweezers got stuck under the machine. I'm like, why is my machine not open? All right, again, platform 1, platform 2, platform 3, piece of cardstock, basic white, sticking down the metal die. I'm going to go a little faster like I would normally, and kind of taping this off and making sure the antennae are lined up so that, and then tape one side and then sort of wiggle it and tape the other side. Again, it's easiest when you're standing right above it as opposed to it being at an angle, just because of the light. So it's better if I kind of look at it like that, and I can tell it's a little off, a little bit more white on that side. It's okay. It's all good because in nature there are imperfections, and it's okay. I mean, it's like nice for things not to be exactly even all the time. We don't get hung up on that. So let's put the top layer, put the top platform down, and we'll roll that through. And that is how you use a stamping mask to color your okay, now we have again, pull that off. Boom, 6 at once. Way faster than using a machine. Way easier. Always color before you cut. In this case, now if you're coloring stamped images, I usually say cut before you color because not all of them cut out properly. But in the case of using a mask, in this particular case, because you're using a mask that has all 6 butterflies at once, you're definitely going to color before you cut. Typically, I tell you not to color before you cut when you're cutting out stamped images. In this case, definitely color before you cut. So let's put these off to the side and do one more thing with this die cutting machine so that I can then move it off my table. Push these back through, although you can run it through backwards, but I don't. I'm going to put down plate number 1, plate number 2, plate number 3. Keep this die out. Okay, and I'm going to show you the designer series paper. Look at this fantastic designer series paper. It's called Butterfly Bijou or something. Bijou, B-I-J. My team members said I was pronouncing it wrong because at first I thought it said Bayou, but it's like B-I-J. Let me find the paper. Let me find it so you can figure it out yourself. B-I-J-O-U, Bijou, Butterfly Bijou. This is going to be a promotion we're having in March for customers, and it's not going to be available like the next annual catalog. I believe it'll be only while supplies last. So then it's going to be probably gone by the time we launch our catalog in June. But check out this designer series paper. It is fantastic. This piece here, yes sirree, it coordinates with the dies. So we'll cut a piece of that out just to show you that. But I want to show you the back of it, and then we'll get back to that. Look at this really cool patterns. And when I do more on my channel about coloring with this, I will get into all the different coordinating colors. But let's suffice it to say that this is Calypso Coral. And you saw me use Bermuda Bay. And the reason I was using Bermuda Bay and Calypso Coral was because they are 2 of the many coordinating colors in this designer series paper. So you get 48 sheets in a pack. Now I'm going to lay down the die so you can just see that. And is that fantastic or what? It just lines up to the designer series paper. So not only did you just see how I can cut out a bazillion butterflies instantly with the stamping masking technique where we cut out one stamping mask, we use the stamparatus to cut to stamp many pieces of paper, and then we take and we cut out all those stamped images. Now we can also cut out loads of embellishments. So using your embellishments from your designer series paper and your stamped images together, you can take your projects to a whole new level because you have different levels of depth and color in your projects. Okay, I tape that down. Always tape things down when you're cutting through like that because you don't want those to slip. Okay, now I'm going to move this machine onto my floor so it does collapse. See, it collapses like that, so it takes up less room. And we do make a mini one, which is way more conducive for me showing in videos. But how cool are those butterflies? So I'm going to move this away. And now we're going to now use the stamping mask for this pieces that we've stamped out earlier. And then we'll get back to all these little butterflies, of which I have loads and loads of. And there are other dies and there are other paper in the Butterfly Brilliance collection. And I probably will show that all in my Ink It Up series. So let's take this. Let's take one of these. And I'm going to use this Highland Heather and Balmy Blue. Not colors in this. They're not colors that go with this. Okay? They're not colors that go with the Butterfly Brilliance suite. But they're colors that go nicely together. And the reason I know that they go nicely together, this Balmy Blue and the Highland Heather, is because these were both part of this paper I just loved over Christmas time. I was using a paper all the time, and the paper was called, let's see, Snowflake Splendor Designer Series paper. And so that's how I know that those 2 colors coordinate together. Okay, but I need to just wipe. I'm just going to use this mask from earlier. This isn't the one I just used, but it's either way, you have to clean off your mask a little bit before you. I'm just kind of wiping it off with a baby wipe just to show you. I'm not going to show you the whole technique because of time, but I need to show you how I made my card that I'm going to show you first. And I don't want to spend all the time, and you can't really see everything I'm doing very clearly, but I need to show you kind of how I did this. Okay, so here's how I did this. You're going to take say you want the inside of the butterfly. Say you want the butterflies to be all like whatever colors you want them to be. In this case, I want them to be Highland Heather. Okay, So what I'm going to do is, say I want that butterfly to be Highland Heather. In this case, in the card I'll show you they're all Highland Heather, but let's just say you just want this one to be Highland Heather. So you're going to tape off, you're going to tape this down so it doesn't slip. You're going to open your Highland Heather, open your ink, and you're going to be more precise, okay? More precise because you're only coloring in one butterfly, so you're going to use the stamping blends when you want to be more precise. And you're going to use a stamping block to get some ink. And you're going to rub your blends in the ink. See, I got the colors mixed in there a little bit. It doesn't matter. You can wash these off. You don't need a different color of blending brush for each color of ink. I just haven't got to the stage where I've washed these yet. I've been using it one for each color. Okay, so I dab it off a little bit. And you're going to do this. You're going to use like circular motions and color in just the butterflies you want in whichever color you want. Tapping into your stamping block, tapping into your butterfly, circular motions, and your mask might slip a little bit, but that's okay. Just kind of hold it where you can. If it slips a little bit, you just get a little bit of a white glow around it. No big deal. Try not to dip straight into your stamping pad with these blending brushes, or you're gonna have like really big blobs of ink onto your blending brush. It doesn't matter though. You don't need a stamping block. You can actually dip right into your ink if you want to. Okay, so here is how to color just part of your card. Okay, now there's more because I want to show you the power of having this mask. Let me go like that. All right. We're going to take, remember these pieces I said, save these pieces. Let's close the Highland Heather. We're going to open up the Balmy Blue. Opening up the Balmy Blue. And let's get, I'm just going to use a sponge brayer again. Balmy Blue sponge brayer. But this time I'm going to take the pieces I told you need to save over here. We're going to say, I told you to save these. So lay that on top of your butterfly. Okay, lay that on top of your butterfly. This is how you can really get a lot out of your masking technique. Because now you're going to protect the Highland Heather while you color in the background. I'm going to tape it down just to hold it there. I do like this part of the card first, and then I did the other part of the card like later. So not like later, I did it later so that I could kind of move this around. Okay, I'm going to get some ink on my sponge and I'm going to color the background. Why Balmy Blue? Because I think it just makes a nice, like the butterflies are in the sky. I just think it looks nice, and I think it goes well with the Highland Heather. And then I put it on a Highland Heather card base, and that's how I did that. Okay, so that is the reverse. That's using your other part of your mask. So those are the masking techniques you can do with your Mylar mask. Then you wash everything off when you're all done. And you have this effect. Okay, and if you missed anything, you get in there with whatever color. I mean, not missed it, but I mean, as if there's a little bit of a glow, you can get in there with like your extra blends. This is actually a Pool Party blends, but pretend it's a Balmy Blue blends, a light Balmy Blue. And you can get in there any little white areas and get up close. But I think it just looks good with the sponge. Kind of go in there if you want though. Okay. And you have this really cool effect. So now for the finished projects, because I'm not going to make you wait while I color all that in. I just wanted to teach you that technique. So I used these two colors together. I'll try to put that in the notes of the video. Highland Heather and Balmy Blue. I used these two colors because they coordinated with the project, with the paper that I showed you, from the Butterfly Brilliance collection. So you have all these really cute butterflies. And so the very first thing I like to do is a project that's sort of incomplete, just to show you how easy it is to complete a little project. So I have this little box. This is from the Love You Always treat boxes. And inside I have a butterfly nail file. This is from the Dollar Tree. And a Ghirardelli chocolate. Okay, so you have a little treat. Put that there. You put it in your box. And you can just slap a butterfly on top of there. And you have an instant little craft. Okay, but there's more. Before you slap it on there, you can put some cute little, I have what's called metallic pearls. Don't mind the state of my metallic pearls, but they kind of got squished around. But you just use your little, I'm just using my little tweezers to put a few little metallic pearls. Only so when you see my pearls on a lot of my projects, you'll see how I got them there. I just use my tweezers. You can also use what's called your take your pick tool. Oops, did you hear that one went flying across my room? My friend Christine gave me these tweezers. I'm not sure where she got them from. But she has a Crafty Crops company. All right, so there you go. That's how you put the little gems on there. Now you can also bling out your gem. Bling it out by putting some Wink Stella. Wink Stella is a little glitter pen. And you can put that on your butterflies. And it really adds to the, so that's how I did my butterflies. And then of course you can do your sentiment. And you pop it up with dimensionals. Wink Stella might make the ink run a little bit, but it kind of gives it more character. Get some dimensionals. Put 2 behind something this big. As you see, I was trying to curl it a little bit. You can curl it with the bone folder. Curl your butterflies to give them 3-dimensional look, but my bone folder is not available. It's kind of far away. Put that in the middle of the box, and you have an instant cute little treat. And then I have my crafty goodness tray of crafty goodness. And I have some sayings. Let's see. Sayings that would fit on there here, like enjoy. Here, we'll just use enjoy. This came from the Pampered or Playful Pets. Something here, we could put it up there. There we go, we'll put it right up there. And if you're gonna put something like that up there, that's also Calypso Coral. You can use what's called the mini dimensionals, and that's how you make a project using the techniques I just showed you. But there's more, because I've made several projects ahead of time to show you how fun this technique is. So there we have. And then to top it off, I'm using twine to tie my boxes up, and the twine is Calypso Coral as well. The twine is from my Flowering Cactus product medley. I have so much leftover twine from all my 3D projects. So, oh, I don't know where the beginning of that starts and where it ends, but you can get the idea where I can tie a cute little knot. I'll take a picture and show you on Facebook. All right, so, but that's what I'm going to be putting around my box, tying a little knot. Let's show you the first project, and then I'm going to get into other Butterfly Brilliance. So I told you that there are dies that come in the suite that emboss, and this is brushed metallic cardstock, and this is me embossing some of the butterflies as well. Something you can't really do. You could do with the machine, ScanNCut, but it's kind of hard. This is better to do with metal dies. Some things metal dies are just better for, and I did tell you I'd mention that, you know, like you saw. All right, so let's talk about this project here. Where's it? Here. Okay. Here is the one I showed you how to make. Okay, you know exactly how I did this. To make this card, I used this technique of Balmy Blue in the background and Highland Heather in the foreground. And I used Wink Stella, meaning I made these glittery butterflies. This is one layer, nothing else on top. I was going to put some pearls on it, but I didn't put any pearls on it yet, just to show you. I probably will put pearls on it. But I just wanted to show you how simple this is. This is actually simple stamping. It's just ink and paper. That's it. There's no extra embellishments. But I am going to put embellishments. I did put embellishments on the inside. And that's the thank you very much. Okay, so you can just see how that goes. And that is from our Butterfly Gala. Like this is Butterfly Gala stamp set. Because this stamp set, Butterfly Brilliance, didn't have any sentiments on it. And so I was using sentiments from another set. Okay, now you saw how I made the box. Here's some more applications of this technique. This is from the Many Messages dies and Many Messages stamp set. That's where I got Be Brave, Be Strong, You Got This. I thought a butterfly is perfect for that. As you can see, I used more Wink Stella and a few of those metallic pearls that I was using on those. Oh, here's my Calypso Coral tied up nicely. So I will tie up nicely. And there's a little tag I made. This is called the Curvy Keepsake. So let me just go ahead and show you what's inside there, this little box, just so you have an idea how cute this little box is and how small it is, but how it still fits a cute, I just put the little tag on, how it fits a cute little chocolates, a few cute little chocolates. Okay, and so Valentine's Day, you know, just cute little hearts. It holds a few little dove hearts. Okay, so this is just something for somebody who needs some encouragement. Maybe somebody battling an illness or cancer, something like that. Okay, here's another application of what we just colored in with the Calypso Coral. Some more metallic pearls, the little Enjoy from the Playful Pets or Pampered Pets or whatever that stamp set is called. I'll have it in the description because I do go through and put my list of supplies in there. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I have it. I have it handy. It's called Pampered Pets. That's where I got the word enjoy from. This is a stamp set we have in our annual catalog. So the little metallic pearls in our annual catalog, some Ghirardelli chocolate. And if you want to put a tea bag in here, you don't need to put Ghirardelli chocolates in here. You can, these will also hold tea. And this is a diaper fold treat pouch, which I've shown many times how to make these on my channel. See how that tea, the blueberry tea, goes well with these butterflies because it actually matches. But I like the chocolate because I'm doing kind of a candy theme. Okay, I have another one of these that I didn't use the stamping mask for, but just to show you. This is just this is just a straight piece of designer series paper, no coloring involved at all. Many messages dies. And there's the treat pouch. Okay, and now here's some more application of this. This one is cut. This one's colored in Bermuda Bay. This is colored in Calypso Coral. This one's just colored in Poppy Prade. I used Poppy Prade to stamp in, but you're wondering maybe, where'd you get all that really cool pattern? Where'd you get that really cool background? Did you have to sponge color that? No. One of the pieces of paper, like this, I was able to stamp directly onto it with Poppy Prade, and you get this really cool butterfly. Just, it comes out like that automatically. These gold ones are part of the dies in there, and the good things in life are better with you is a stamp from, and a little note is a stamp from the Butterfly Gala stamp set. I'm just looking and seeing if my Butterfly Gala is anywhere handy. Oh, here it is. It's right here. It's under here. Here's my Butterfly Gala stamp set. This Butterfly Gala stamp set's fantastic because it's something that coordinates with what's called the Butterfly Duet Punch. And you might be like, oh, I'm all butterflied out. Oh, no. These butterflies are different sizes. You can stamp butterflies and then punch them out. Then you have extra accent embellishments. And I just love having different options. Okay. The reason I'm showing you this punch is because in my next card, I did use the punch as well as the metal dies that you just saw me use, as well as the designer series paper. So here is an application where I sponge colored this butterfly. I cut out a piece of designer series paper. I punched out 2 butterflies from the punch, and I used the embossing and cutting and embossing die from the Butterfly Wings. I think it's called Brilliant Wings. Maybe it's called Brilliant Wings. Brilliant Wings die set that coordinates with this. This is a welcome to the team card for a new team member. I like using this because it shows like all the butterflies kind of flying around together, and that's what our team is. We're flying off in, we have the same goals, but then we also have different goals flying off in different directions. Kind of fun. Okay, so that's that. And I know I have more projects to show you. What happened to them? There was a couple other kinds of boxes. Oh, here they are, here they are. So the last couple projects to show you are, this little box is just something I made with the embossing die, and I didn't put the sentiment on it yet. And here's one where I used the stamped image. This is from, this little box is from the little treat box dies. It was in our holiday catalog, the little treat box dies, so a lot of my customers have it. I used Blushing Bride and the ribbon, Blushing Bride metallic ribbon, metallic pearls, Wink Estella on the butterfly, and many messages dies there. And these little boxes hold mini Tic Tacs and mini Mentos. I don't want to really open that right now, but trust me, there's one little mini Mentos and 2 little mini Tic Tacs in there. I can try to pull out a Tic Tac just to show you, but I don't want to open up this box because I've got it kind of glue dotted together. Let me find it, Tic Tacs. I do have these on my website, thepaperchef.com, my Tic Tac kits. That's what's in there. I just don't want to open it right now because once I put the glue dots on, this is what the Kirby Keepsake die does. And in the little treat box die sort of does something similar to this, where it's really easy just to create little boxes and then you stuff them with your little treats. So the paper's fantastic and just a great way to brighten someone's day. Okay, so that's how to make that little box. Now I've already stamped some things, so these are cards I'm kind of in the middle of, like that. And I've already stamped some little sentiments from Dragonfly Garden, which I think will also go really well with this. Like, thank you for your kindness, and you are an inspiration. So in my tray of crafty goodness, this is my tray, I have all the butterflies that I'm cutting out. I have the dies that I'm using. I have stamped images that I've cut, other sentiments that are ready to go, some using die cuts. So it's just how I create a lot of things, is because I cut out the embellishments first, and then I cut out my stamped images, and et cetera, et cetera. Then I do my mass production that way. Well, I hope you enjoyed these projects. I'll try to take a picture of them all together and separately and show you which products I used in more detail. I hope you enjoyed this technique of masking, and I hope you understand the practical application. Here are all the things I did with the masking. This one, here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 butterflies. Okay, so you got to see all the 7. Here's another one. 7. They were all made using the masking technique, all those butterflies. But you also have other cool butterflies in the suite made with other techniques. Here's another card made with the masking technique. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to use the stamping mask and many practical applications of it. And I hope you get to see my thought process of why I use some metal dies along with the scan and cut, how it makes my project and workflow more efficient. And I hope you'll give this a try with whichever stamps you have and whichever model of scan and cut you have. That's all for now. This is the Papered Chef. Thank you for watching.